Welcome back, and today is a day to talk about how to build a life that you ultimately want. There's one day that I think I heard Oprah saying most people do not succeed not because they're not smart enough, but because they do not know what they want. And in this conversation, we're going to challenge you to really sit down and kind of think, what is it that you want? I have Gareth with me, and what he does is he really helps people build a life that they want. There's a lot of people that are successful on the outside, but inside they are battling depression, they are battling imposter syndrome, they are battling feelings of not being good enough. There's people that on the outside we would imagine are successful, but inside things are not as good as they look on the outside. And hopefully what we're going to talk about today is how can you be generally happy and fulfilled. How can you have a life of your dreams, feel aligned, feel fulfilled, feel at peace, and have it all, if I can say that? How can you leave the shame, blame, guilt behind you? How can you become who you are authentically with your success? How can you live a life where you're not like trying to make up appearances, where you're not on a show, where you're not acting like the peace that comes from that place where there's nothing to hide because all of you is accepted and loved and appreciated, and you are just that. There's nothing you have to hide. There's nothing in the closet because everything you have is who you are, and that is okay. Matt has built a 7-figure company before. He's someone that is very insightful when it comes to business strategy. But the thing about Matt is he also cares for the human being. And he knows that there's no business without the human behind the wheel. But if the human behind the wheel is battling with anxiety, depression, shame, blame, and all of that, the business can only go so far. And for most of the CEOs or the executives or the business entrepreneur, the bottleneck is the individual. And today we're really going to talk about how can we take care of the individual so that pushes back in the business. I am super excited to be chatting with my friend Matt, who I met in a mastermind, and I thought that what he really brings to the world is brilliant. And I want to bring him on, interview him through how he does what he does so we can ultimately see exactly how to really step into alignment and the fullness of who we are as business owners without sacrificing anything. Matt, you're welcome to the podcast. It's such an honor to have you.
Thank you. That was probably the kindest and most generous introduction I've ever had. Thank you so much, and I'm happy to be here.
For sure. I also felt like I went to the mountain and back and back. So, in short, or in summary, what is it that you do? If I had to be precise, what would I have said?
I help people build lives that they are in love with. I help entrepreneurs and particularly build their life and business so it offers them emotional and financial abundance and emotional and financial abundance and a life of freedom, which I believe is what we're all really hoping for, all really searching for is freedom.
Before you started this, what you're doing now, you actually did 7 figures. Why the pivot?
Yeah, so 8 years ago, I started a consulting business. It was a sales consulting business. I still offer similar services right now, but I focused heavily on the consumer product industry, and I help dozens of businesses scale to 7, 8, and even 9 digits. And in the process, I made myself over $1 million a year from my services. And I don't say that to brag. I say that because I had an incredible journey along the way, an incredible growth journey, healing journey that enabled that to be possible. I come from a very blue collar family and never in a million years would have thought that this would be possible for me. And it's not just the money. I mean, through this journey, I've learned what it I learned what it is that I really want, and I've learned how to build an authentic life, and I help my clients do the same.
What is an authentic life?
An authentic life is the life that feels good for us, simply put. It's a life that we're meant to be living. It's the life like when we're living an authentic life, we have struggles. There's things that happen, but those struggles feel challenging and exciting to overcome rather than painful. And when we're living on authentic life, we we're we're doing things that we believe in, things that we
Mm.
care about, and the struggles become recognizable as growth opportunities, and they're exciting, and they're not torturous.
Mm.
And so many of us are living lives that feel torturous too often. They're not authentic.
So a lot of people, especially on the internet, where everything seems to be going, everyone looks successful and happy. And sometimes you sit in the corner and wonder, am I the only person who's not crushing it? Am I the only person who's not having my marriage shooting in the moon? Am I the only person who's not making, the best sales in the month? Sometimes there's a very blurred line between real success and fake success. What needs to be happening in my life today to know that this conversation is going to be very important, because some people don't know that there is another option.
For you to feel that you are living a successful life, it's a life that you define your success, and
Mm.
what I have found is that almost every single person I've worked with, they do want financial freedom, they do want money, they do want to not worry about bills, but what we really want is we want to be living a life doing the things that feel good for us, the things that excite us. And um that's what we're really after. And when we're not doing that, when we're not feeling that, it feels like it that's not success. And I think that's why so many of us are conflicted, because we have, like me, I had on the outside, everything looked good. I was doing all the things I was supposed to do, and on the inside, I still felt empty inside. And it was because I wasn't living the life of success that I wanted for myself. And I think our definitions of success change from time to time. When we're younger, we do need to build a foundation. We do need to try things. But once we get older, we start to realize what feels good for us. And those definitions change. Our lives are always changing.
Mm. You said when you before you came to this, or when you were building your first business, you felt successful on the outside, but on the inside, you felt different. Would you like to take us there and give us the full story of what happened for you?
Sure. This was my big growth journey here. And so I started my business. And what happened was the pressure and the stress from it really started to eat away at me. I was feeling worried all the time. I started to feel very sad. And I went to the doctor and found out that I had high blood pressure. That was something new. I went to the doctor regularly, and this stress and pressure that I was under was causing my body to have high blood pressure. I was constantly in pain. I couldn't sleep. It was just crazy. And then I started having panic attacks and ended up in the hospital 2 times, thinking I was dying of a heart attack. And what was happening was I wasn't able to set boundaries in my life, especially at work. And I wasn't able to, my new clients that I was bringing on board, I was providing excellent services for them, and I wasn't able to value myself appropriately. I didn't know how to value myself appropriately. And as I started working with doctors and therapists and healers and coaches, I learned finally, I went to a neurologist, and he said, Matt, what you're suffering from is anxiety. And it was liberating that it was clear there wasn't some deeply serious medical problem, but the anxiety was not going anywhere unless I was willing to deal with it. And I worked with my coaches and therapists and found that underneath all of it was undiagnosed, unprocessed childhood trauma. I'd been telling myself my whole life that my childhood was fine, that I was suppressing the reality that it was very painful and it left a lot of scars on me, and my confidence and my ability to advocate for myself were severely stifled. And going on the journey to heal myself was has been my life's greatest accomplishment.
So are you saying you had the success, you were able to go in the business world, make tons of money, but when you went back home, you were unhappy? Or are you saying, how did that affect your ability to build a business or be successful?
I was driven by scarcity and by fear. And I think when we're driven by scarcity and fear, those are two of the best, maybe not best, two of the most productive drivers. So that was how I built my business. I was terrified that I was going to become unable to earn money, that I was going to need to give myself a rest one day. So it was so counterintuitive and so unwise, but I was pushing myself harder and harder because I knew that one day I was going to crack and I wanted to have enough money. So when I did crack, that I would have the means to take care of myself. But I was completely driven by scarcity and fear. And I'm a smart person. I've been in business. I've been working in sales and revenue generation for entrepreneurs for the past 2 decades. So I knew a lot, but I pushed myself. I pushed myself beyond my limitations, and that's not something I recommend for people. There are times and seasons where we need to push ourselves harder than others, but it's not a long-term strategy, and it was killing me.
You make a very good point. I was in a mastermind and the guy said, I want to work with people who have a hole so deep that they will do anything and everything to crash it. And I was like, is that a good thing? I was like, I want guys who doesn't matter how much money they make, they cannot be satisfied. That's what I want in this program. And I was like, huh? Why would you want people like that? So give me a good, like, paint a picture for me. What's the difference between building to fulfill a purpose like you're doing now and being fueled by success or being fueled by fear to create success when you have no idea what's building? What's the difference between the drive either way? What was for you?
Yeah, so I think that you're mentioning something really important. I think those people exist, and as I've navigated through my life for the past 41 years, there are people out there. I mean, those are the people who are making billions of dollars that are changing the world in a lot of different ways. I think that there has to be a certain like that's a drive that they have. Some of it comes from a good place. Some people really love to work that hard, I think. Some people are driven by scarcity and by fear the way I was. I think a lot of people want to they're overcompensating perhaps, and I mean that's what I've learned about myself was that I thought I wanted all of the external success and I kept pushing and pushing and pushing. And then the more that I got to know myself, the more that I got in touch with my true emotions and learned who I really was. That's when I learned that that actually wasn't what I'm after. And then if you think about it, we all want different things. Some of us want to have a big family. Some of us don't want children. Some of us want to get married. Some of us don't. Some of us want to be artists. Some of us want to be really high performing business executives. And it all comes down to just learning what we want for ourselves. And my story being that I came from this childhood trauma, I wasn't able to ask myself what I wanted. And it all comes down to once we know what we want, once we get clarity on what we want, we are able to go after it. And I think there's a lot of healthy people out there that are driven by just sheer motivation to work that hard, like you recommend. But I think a lot of us, we're just not cut out for that, or that's not what we really want. And I think that's the distinction that we need to be able to make for ourselves. And we can only make it for ourselves. And now, as I'm building my business, now as I'm building just so everyone's clear, I have a mentorship business right now where I'm working with entrepreneurs and
Mm.
helping you with your life and your business. I think they are both intertwined. And my greatest mission in life has been working on myself, and it's helping me build a business that actually feels really good to me. So that's my mission in life, is to help entrepreneurs build lives and businesses that feel good for them. And I found that so many of us never really take the time to understand what sort of business and what sort of life we actually really want for ourselves. And I help people with that.
So when you say, I hope you build your dream life and business, is it that you believe that once we build the life we want and the business we want, then we will be fulfilled? Or can you take me deep into build your dream life and show me what it means? What do you mean build your dream life? What are the buckets? How do I know that I'm building my dream life? What am I looking at? What should I call them? Like, what are the tangibles, the pillars, the buckets that I am thinking through? Because a lot of people do not know what they want. They just want things. They want a plane. They want what Grant Cardone has. They think they want to be the next Oprah. I just was on a call with someone who said, I want to be the next Tony Robbins. I said, are you sure? So how do we begin to envision that we can bring it to life? Because I feel like a lot of people want success, but if I were to ask them what is it they really want, they don't know. Does that
Prima,
make sense?
it's really easy I mean, it's really I mean, it's simple to start off this
Mm,
process. I mean, we start by
mm,
envisioning and by articulating what we want our day to look like. What do we want our day to look like today? What are we willing to tolerate today to get us to where we want to be? And
mm,
I want to be more clear on that. Like we figure out what we want our lives to be like one day, you know, what we want that day to look like in 5 years. And then we also acknowledge right now what we're willing to do to get there. I have I have articulated for myself, I'll use myself as an example here. Like I'm willing to, you know, put in, say, 8 hours a day of, you know, hard work right now. But really where I'm looking to get to is where I'm working with clients for, say, 4 hours, and I'm writing a book about my journey. I love writing, and that's a big part of the life that I'm trying to build right now. So I really want that like 4 hours a day eventually of working with clients. And right now I am doing 8 hours a day of that because that's going to get me to where I want to be. And 8 hours a day is totally fine. If you were to tell me that I could, you know, that I can make $1 billion in 10 years if I was willing
mm.
to work 20 hours a day right now, that's not what I want to do. Like, I mean, it sounds crazy, but it's true. I mean, there's no amount of money in the world right now that's going to make me step outside of I call it my river of tolerance, like right now of what I'm willing to live. And it all starts with just articulating what we want our lives to look like, and then we can work backwards and start to re-engineer that. And I find 100% of the times none of us are shooting for things that are impossible for us. Like to you're only able to articulate what you want because it's possible for you. You know, if you wanted to, I'm just making this up, but if you wanted to be a doctor, you have to acknowledge that that's going to take you several years of education to do it. You know, you can't have one without doing the other. And what I find, it's just so many of us, almost all of us, we haven't clearly articulated what we really want for our lives. And it's a hard process. You know, I mean, I work with clients, sometimes it takes weeks and even months to really like get clear on what we're shooting for. And that's going to continue to evolve over time. And you asked a question at the beginning of that last statement you made, and how do we know we're on the right track? And it's when we're in touch with our emotions and we feel that this track, like it's true what they say, like it shouldn't feel like work. You know, I mean, we always use the example of like, you know, doing your bookkeeping or something. Yes, doing your 3 hours of bookkeeping a month or whatever it might be, those things don't feel bad. They don't feel hard when the rest of your life is in line and it's all for a vision. It's all in the same mission. But what we do feel is we feel like we are being tortured when we are on a completely different track that is veering us away from what we really authentically want for ourselves.
So if I don't really know what I want, what kind of questions do I need to ask to get clear? Because I never really did this process, but I kind of had something like, okay, in business, I want this. In my health, I want this. In my family, I want this. In my love life, I want this. In my spiritual life, I want this. In the material that I want to create, my legacy, when I'm dead, this is what I want people to know about me. And so this is how I want to bring it to life. I am just wondering, how should someone begin to think if they've just been on autopilot and they just were born, they went to school, they got degrees and degrees. They're now probably a CEO of a company and they have never sat down to say, what do I want? Like they're living a life which has been put in their hands by I do not know who. Where should we begin to think? Because I feel like what you're saying now, first of all, you said feelings. I can assure you there's a lot of men in this podcast that are like, feelings. Okay, what is he talking about? You said when we're in touch with our emotions, and I was like, okay, you lost us. Like some people have no idea what their emotion is. If you were talking to someone that is a vice president, VP somewhere, and all they know is they've just gone up the ladder, gone up the ladder, gone up, they've never stopped to say, what do I want? They just want the next promotion and the next promotion and the next promotion. But now maybe they're beginning to go, why do I still feel like crap?
Absolutely.
Where should we begin? Baby steps smart. Like, where do we begin to start thinking like that? Because I feel like I just grew up, got a job, and I think for me, my calling started slapping me. And I didn't like the job. Something internally said you don't belong here. So I put my leg in entrepreneurship. And then I made money. And then I made money. And then my calling came and slapped me again. And it said, no, I don't want you to make money. I want you to make a real impact. I want you to do something deeper. It's like for me, something internally slaps me every time I am not on the right path. And this podcast, I think, is the first thing that I've built that I feel like if I died tomorrow, I'll be happy for people to discover the work that I've done. But I do not see how many people are doing that naturally. I feel like there's people who are just going and going. I'm like, hey, where are you going? Slow down. So how do people slow down if they don't have this internal fire that like which gets to me or you? Like, or are they not meant to do this? Walk me through that. I don't understand that piece.
Sure. You asked a few questions in there. I'll try to hit them all. But in terms of how to start understanding what it is that makes us fulfilled, what we really want for our lives, I'm a huge proponent of journaling. And it really shocks me how many people ask me, how do I journal? Does it have to be on paper? Does it have to be on the computer? You can journal however you want, and I think this is all about getting, you talked about emotions, but getting in touch with our emotions. Our emotions are inside us. They are guiding us. They're not to be chased always, but they're giving us information about ourselves, about really what fulfills us. And so I'm a huge proponent of journaling. You could start off every single day like just writing the 10 things that excite you. You could be writing 5 things that you remember about your childhood that made you happy. You can make the 15 dreams you have for yourself in your 40s and your 50s and your 60s and your 70s. These are all just meant to get the thoughts out of you. And I think that what you're describing right now is that we're never taking the time to even do that. And it can start with 5 minutes a day. One of the best books that I've ever read, and I just was thinking about it this morning, it's called The Artist's Way, and it's by an author named Julia Cameron. This is a very, very popular book, and she calls it Morning Pages. And I've heard hundreds of other thought leaders and other coaches and mentors talk about this over the years, where this morning pages thing, it's just a way of saying journaling. This is what most people who are living fulfilling lives are doing to uncover what a fulfilling life for them is. We are getting our thoughts out of our head. We're becoming acquainted with them. Um, as somebody that used to suffer from anxiety the way that I did, what I've come to realize in a very simplistic way of stating what anxiety is, it's really our inner needs not being matched with our external circumstances. So we have this anxiety, this fear, this this discomfort that's trying to tell us something. That's our emotions that are, that are speaking with us. And by doing, journaling or morning pages, it's the most accessible way to get the thoughts out of us. And, there's tons of different ways you could do this. If you were afraid, like I was afraid of somebody finding my journal many, many years ago, if you wanted to just tear your pages up after you read them, you are still making progress in getting to know who you are better. This is all about getting to know who you are. Where now my journaling process is, in each Sunday, I go back and look through the prior week. I make some notes there. Every month I kind of paw back through the journal and see what I've written. And I'm noticing patterns. I'm noticing fears. I'm noticing on Mondays what comes up versus what comes up on Friday after I've done some fulfilling work. It's all a journey of getting to know ourselves. And I mentioned journaling first just because it's the most accessible. It's free. You can do it whenever, wherever. There's no limitations. But talking to a therapist, a coach, or friends, family. But I am just, the way that I say this is just to divulge your dreams. Any way that you can start getting your dreams and aspirations out of you is really the first step, and trying things like seeing what works and what doesn't. You start a podcast, you don't like it. Well, that's great. You got some information there. Maybe you do better with writing, or maybe you don't want to have that sort of a commitment. I'm not sure, but it's about trying new things after we start divulging these dreams and seeing what feeds us and what doesn't. But it's a journey, it's a practice like everything in life. And when we start to become awakened, when we start to become in touch with ourselves, we accept that life is a journey and that these mishaps, they all are part of the journey. And we start to become less afraid of times that are maybe less successful, less productive, and we embrace those. It's all a learning experience. So I think I hit all of the questions that you had asked right there, but it's just a process of getting to know ourselves. And that's why, that's why I exist. That's why coaches and therapists exist, because a lot of times we need help on this journey. I've needed a lot of help myself, and I'm, it's a journey.
So if I know that I'm not fulfilled, maybe I'm anxious, maybe I'm depressed, maybe I have fear, maybe I have shame, maybe I have guilt, any of those. I just know that I'm not fulfilled in my life, but I do not know why. Is there any way to look back and say it's this and not that? Is there a way I can go back and kind of check boxes? Is there a way I can structurally go back and check boxes and go, oh, I'm not fulfilled because I am in the wrong business? Because when you started, you said you may be in the wrong business or the wrong business model or the wrong way of delivery. Like you got to know yourself enough to know what is in alignment. But I am struggling with understanding how I know what is in alignment if I don't know where to look. Like, how do I troubleshoot if the only thing I know is I am pretty depressed? I'm unhappy,
Mm-hmm.
my marriage is crumbling, or I hate my business, or I hate my job. I just know that I'm miserable, or
Mm-hmm.
I am not as successful as people think I am. How do I begin to self troubleshoot so I can qualify myself to be like the right person to maybe work with you or be a fit for what you do?
Yeah, I mean, I'm smiling because, for me, probably the biggest way that I found support on my journey was through other people's stories. I became an avid reader, and I'm just kind of smiling because I just finished a book right now as I mean, we all struggle with seeing the label from inside the bottle. I coach tons of people and help them with
Mm.
problems, but my own life, it's a little bit different. I need help on my life too. In these past several weeks, I have starting a business is challenging. You're making a lot of mistakes. A lot of growing is happening. And I've known that there's been too much going on in my life. I know I've needed to slow down. So I picked up a book that I just finished yesterday called Slow Productivity by Cal Newport. And the book was so good. I mean, honestly, it has three principles. It talks, the whole book is about doing less and moving with the flow of nature and doing quality work. And it got me to really see like that's something in my life, like that's what I need in my life right now. Like that was
Mm.
you mentioned self troubleshooting. I was able to self troubleshoot what was going on in my life by reading that book. And I just started another book yesterday by Ina Garten. She's the Barefoot Contessa. She's a really famous chef. And I've loved her for many, many years. And she just came out with her first memoir last week. And she talks all about doing something you love. Like that's her whole that's her success. And actually, I think it's she's probably not the best cook in the entire world, although she's very good. But it's an inspiring story about how she used to work as a nuclear analyst for the White House.
Mhm.
And I think so many of us have these dream jobs. Like you think, oh, a nuclear analyst for the White House. And she was like, it was horrible. She didn't say the job was horrible, to be clear. She said it wasn't for her.
Mm.
And I picked up that book and I was reading it this morning again. I'm like 70 pages in already because I'm building a life right now that I love. I want to be doing it. My dream in life, my big mission in life is to build a life that I love and show others how to do that. And me being a male, being very deep and vulnerable and willing and able to share my emotions, I don't see a lot of men out there who are willing to do that. And I'm not trying to pat myself on the back. I'm just kind of blessed with this gift. It comes very natural to me. So I know that there's something there. Um, I know that's one of my gifts in the world, but my mission in life is to show people how to do this and how to leave their unfulfilling lives to build ones that are. And my like three of the biggest things I've learned on this journey are to embrace these imperfections. I was so hard on myself. I couldn't even see it. And just for context, I'm 41. My healing journey started at 33. It wasn't until like 2 years ago, so 6 years into my healing journey, that I was finally able to ease up on myself and to start offering myself a notable amount of grace on this journey. So I really help people with that. I mean, it's a huge lesson to learn. And then also forgiveness, forgiving ourselves, forgiving others for their imperfections. And it sounds funny, but like when I finally made the money that I wanted to make, and to do that, I mean, I started doing that working 15 to 20 hours a week. I learned how to delegate. I learned how to get team members to support me and do their jobs. And I had so much shame for the success and the I guess like a survivor's guilt. So I teach my clients how to live in this life of abundance once you create it. But it's all a journey. I don't think it ever stops. I mean, when we're like like we're meant to change professions every 7 years, I think is what they say. Like it's not to say that you won't have your podcast for your whole life, but I'd be surprised if you're still talking about the exact same topics in 7 years. We're all evolving. And um but this all happens for me by other people's stories. Like these books, they're so underrated. I'm in America, they're $30 or so for a hardback book. And you get this book that's filled with millions of dollars of people's mistakes and learning lessons. And we have the privilege of learning from them. So, and there's podcasts and audiobooks and TV shows. There's a lot of ways that we can learn from other people's stories.
I think the thing that have changed my life the most, I've been in masterminds and all, but I think books are really no one gives credit to books that they deserve. I feel like there's a lot in a good book that can be worth tens and thousands of dollars, and people never take books seriously. So I like that you said that, because most of the problems we're trying to solve right now, somebody has already downloaded their mistakes and everything in that book, and it's there.
There
So
are no new problems, they say.
yeah, there are no new problems.
There's no
Ma,
new
what
problem.
is it that we've left out that makes this conversation incomplete?
You have the power to change your life. You have the power to relinquish the harmful narratives about yourself.
Mm.
I'm just a normal person. I mean, I don't know, like, I mean, I came from so little and I never expected this of myself. And by being brave and just asking for help. I know it sounds weird to ask for help, but it means like going into your boss's office who you trust and admitting that There's something that you might not know that you'd like to learn. It means talking to a friend, a loved one, and saying, I'm scared. It means going to somebody, that you meet on the street that looks like they're suffering and offering them help. I mean, I've been really interested right now as I'm navigating through the changes that I am in my life, how many people, how many friends I have not really shown up to like support me, and I'm saying this with compassion. I think so many of us are afraid because we don't know what to say. Like we don't know how to help somebody else, but that's just it. We learn how to go up to somebody, and if we don't know how to say anything, we give them a hug and just say we love them or we care about them, and we're willing to have a conversation with them. But my life has changed. Like the biggest my the secret to my success in life, and this isn't just monetary success, it's been vulnerability, and it's been my willingness to go to introspect inside myself and become vulnerable and learn who I am, like I said, through reading, through journaling, these morning pages, and even through conversations with you, Prima. I mean, you and I have gotten to know each other and getting feedback and just interacting with people. This changes everything. And we start to realize that, like, no one's smarter than the next person. We're all out here struggling with the same things. Every single one of us who's trying to change the world, who's trying to do something remarkable, struggles with imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome it happens when you are doing something new. If you never have that imposter syndrome, then you're not stretching. And that's fine too for some people. Some people don't want to stretch all the time and they're happy living their lives. And I think that's a big thing. I mean, that's why some of us are, like going back to your example about these people that are, super, super financially successful, building massive companies. They need people on their teams that aren't looking to do the same thing, that just want to support them. But everything in my life has changed from just getting to know myself and learning who I am. And I want to just make it clear, I could not have done it alone. Enact this happened from engaging with others and getting help. So thank you.
I love the 4 things that you gave us, the 5 things, and I know we're winding up, but I love the fact that you brought this up. Like, have grace. Give yourself grace. Like, be compassionate with yourself. Give yourself grace. Forgive. My dad used to say, not forgiving someone is like drinking poison and hoping they die.
Yeah.
So, like, forgive and allow yourself to enjoy what you've worked for without the shame, without the guilt.
Yeah.
Like, enjoy. And then I picked up something else called curiosity. Like, just be curious. You never know who is going to make your life, your message better. So just be curious. And finally, what I pick up is always be a student of life. There's always something to learn. There's a book to read. You can always get better. Don't get to a point where you think you've reached the top of the mountain, because there's nothing like that until you die. On this podcast, we have a triad going, and that is you come with a message, I translate the message, and the receiver, person who's listening, is a vessel who carries the message. But for them to carry the message, they need to know who to give it to. The person we seem to be talking to is successful on the outside. They look like they have it together, but internally they may be bleeding. And we don't know how to identify them. And so I feel like the messenger's problem, or this vessel here has a problem today to identify who we're after, because it's like they have a mask on and we don't know how they look like, because all we know is Superman, but inside Superman seems to be like a boy who is struggling. And so if we were to share this message with one person, who should we look for? Who would be the best person to receive this message?
The person who's called for more. They know inside that there's more for them, that they're not happy. Like, I grew up always thinking that something was wrong with me because I wasn't happy. I just wasn't fulfilled. I mean, flat out just wasn't fulfilled. And I didn't know what fulfillment looked like. But I don't think most of us know what fulfillment looks like until we start the journey. And if you have a calling for more in your life, and it's not necessarily more money, it might be money's fine. It might be a bigger family. It might be having children. It might be making an impact on the world. It might be helping with global warming. Any of these things, these are beautiful callings. And if you're waking up in the morning with a calling, with you have a desire to grow, I'm a testament to it being possible. And I help people grow to be their most to be the best version of themselves, help their companies become the best version of themselves as well.
So the deal I have with the listener is that they will share this message with one person. So how do we know that someone is called for more? How do we know that they desire more? Because most of them have walls up and they have masks up and we see them as Superman. So who should we send this episode to? Because we would love to share, to support this podcast. But we are thinking, I don't know. Who should I send this to? Would you be able to kind of, on outside eye, notice that, oh, that guy needs help?
I love that question and it's making me smile. It's the person, I want to say it's the person that's probably a little quieter, who is working very hard. You see them like they're excellence driven and they're like they're a little quiet. Like you can see that there's something, you can see that they're curious. They ask good questions. It's the person that's, but it's the person who's delivering excellence right now. That's what I would say. Excellence.
Okay. I want to give another guess. What if it was like I've seen people who were excellent in their job, but they were getting divorced east, west, center. I've seen people who had money, but they couldn't keep a woman. I've seen people who had the beautiful marriage, but they couldn't figure out the money. I have seen people who had all the money and everything, but they just had bad health. Is that one way to tell? Like if somebody is overly successful over here, but like they just get divorced and divorced and divorced, is that a sign? Because we want to be externally able to see a disconnect for us to go, I think my friend over there.
I think it's not the person necessarily that's having problems in their life. I think it's the person who wants to fix the problems in their life. And I don't have a solution necessarily to the person that doesn't want to fix their life. I think this is what we have marketing for. You know, there's a lot of information and they have to get curious sort of on their own. I think as friends and family members, we can, you know, gently nudge people, but people don't change until they're ready to change. That's like, there's no changing somebody that doesn't want to. So to give an answer to your question, I mean, it's the person that's showing signs that they want to improve their life, they want to make an impact, or they want to grow into a bigger version of themselves. But a lot of times people have problems. They have 10 divorces in their life and they have no desire to change.
Who do you know that has expressed a desire to change their life? Who do you know that has been going to seminar after seminar after seminar? Who do you know that is curious and maybe has taken up, I don't know, I think it's the person that has started moving maybe from buying cars, buying books. Who do you know, or who do you sense that, like my family know I am the person who's always learning and growing. So if they see anything strange, they go, Prima, is that something for you? And I'm like, no, you guys. But they know me as someone who's like a sponge. I'm always learning and learning. So the other thing I can say is really, if you feel called to share this with anyone, just share it. Because we may not really know where someone is. We may not know what they're battling with. We don't know. But sometimes as an intuitive listener, you pick a nudge to send this to someone else. And so if you're feeling that nudge, just share it.
Well, that's
never
what we
know.
do. I mean,
Yeah.
like that's why I say we get to know people. You know, we get, you know, we support people. We let other people in, and we're going to get more acquainted with people's vulnerabilities and their inadequacies, things that they want to change about themselves.
Yeah. One of the questions I've learned to ask is when I meet people, I say, what is it you desire? Like if I was to connect you with anyone or help with anything, what would it be? And you'd be surprised what people asked for. And I've like come and just gotten an interview and said, hey, watch this. And it's always been like a blessing for them. So learn to ask the question like, how can I support you? How can I be of help? Is there anything you desire? I think that can be a way to tell if someone will be open for something like this. As you speak to people, just ask them, How can I be supportive? How can I support you?
Mm-hmm.
What is it that you're looking for that I probably can connect you with someone and see what happens? Anyhow, thank you so much for being with us today, for hanging out with Matt and I. It's been such a great conversation. Matt, do you have anything you want to end with as we go?
Thank you for having me. I really am grateful to have met you and to speak to your audience. And I'm just really, I hope that my story inspires somebody. And if anybody is curious at all, you can reach out and schedule a free phone call with me. And I would like to help you with any of your questions about growing and reaching your fullest potential as well. I love working with entrepreneurs and people who are changing the world and wanting to change themselves.
What kind of containers do you have in the back? Is it like one-on-one coaching? Is it group? Is it masterminds?
I love working with small, like with one-on-one. It's excuse me, one-on-one or working with companies one-on-one. So I love working in intimate groups, is what I was trying to
So
say.
companies and then individuals, or?
Yeah, like entrepreneurs and their companies mainly.
Okay, so cross proximity, shoulder to
Yeah.
shoulder, hand holding, custom type of thing.
I offer a very white glove service, and so it's not something right now that something that I'm scaling to a big offering. I love working intimately, so I've
Mm.
reflected my packages as such.
That may change from time to time, but whatever it is the Matt will be evolving in and offering, I'm sure we can always update the show notes. So if you want to know like where is he at, I'm seeing this 6 months later, 2 years later, just check in the show notes. Somehow we'll be able to update whatever services he has going. Best case scenario, his website.com. Just go there and you should be able to see the different ways that you can plug into what he does. But most importantly, he's been generous to offer a free call. And so if you're feeling led, called, lean in and take that and have a chat around how he can support you create the life of your dreams. Sending you all of my love and light. Thank you for today. And Matt, we want to celebrate you for stepping up, owning who you are, all of it, the struggles that had to happen for that, for you to come out and say, this is who I am, this is all of my vulnerabilities. And doing that as a man, I think we really want to celebrate that because not so many men are open to the emotion, not so many men are open to that darkness inside. Like, not so many men are willing to see that, to look there and say, this is who I am, and this is all of it. And I'm going to use it to inspire somebody else. So really want to celebrate you for that. It's a big deal for us at this podcast. So thank you.
Thank you for having me.
All right, guys. I'll see you next time. Have a great one.